about this. Democratic Congressman Krishnamoorthi joining me now from Chicago. Congressman, always good to see you, but wow, I want your reaction on this ruling in California, because there are a lot of people who are very upset, from the governor of California to the attorney general and family members of victims of gun violence. You represent Chicago, a city where gun violence has taken thousands and thousands of lives. So how do you interpret this ruling?
I think it's a seriously flawed ruling, Frederica. To compare an AR-15 to a Swiss Army knife runs counter to what any ordinary person would believe. The ruling was also shocking, coming on Gun Violence Awareness Day, where literally thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people are thinking about how their lives and their families were adversely and very negatively impacted by gun violence. I expect this to be reversed on appeal, and I think this only strengthens the resolve of folks like myself and leaders in Congress to pursue common sense gun measures.
So we heard Paula Sandoval say that, pro-gun groups are delighted with this ruling. And just to elaborate a little bit on the ruling, the judge saying that the state's definition of illegal military-style rifles unlawfully deprives law-abiding Californians of weapons commonly allowed in most other states and by the Supreme Court. So that is his justification for this ruling, that this is unconstitutional. On what grounds do you believe an appeal might be successful by the Attorney General?
Well, for one thing, I think the Second Amendment is really about allowing for people to have weapons for quote-unquote self-defense. That's the core purpose of the Second Amendment. In this case, the AR-15 is not merely a weapon for self-defense. It's a weapon, a tool of mass shootings. That's why it was the weapon of choice in Aurora, Colorado, the Tree of Life Synagogue. It was used in Parkland. It was used in so many places, because, including Las Vegas, by the way, where dozens and dozens were killed instantly because of the AR-15's lethal nature. And so when the judge calls it the quote-unquote perfect combination of a home defense weapon and homeland defense equipment, it sounds more like an advertisement and basically legislating on his part, when instead the California legislature and the governor and the people of that state decided it was not an appropriate tool of self-defense.
Congressman, let me shift gears. If you don't mind, I want to talk to you about cybersecurity. You sit on both the Oversight and Intelligence Committees in the House. So how are you dealing with these threats and now attacks, plural?
Well, whatever we're doing right now is not working. As you know, last year there was about 15,000 ransomware attacks in 1 year alone. And so we have to do at least three things, Frederica. First, I think that a lot of folks, including myself and other members of Congress, think that we're a little bit too much on defense, and now we need to play more offense. Secondly, that's going to involve, in part, holding host countries that harbor cyber criminals and gangs accountable for the actions of those cyber criminals. We thankfully, under the Biden administration, have increased the cost somewhat, but I think we're going to have to ramp those up and make it very clear to states such as Russia that the costs are going to be considerable for harboring these cyber criminals. And then third, we're going to have to adopt a system of carrots and sticks with regard to private industry in this country to adopt proper cybersecurity defenses, because the status quo is untenable right now.
I want you to listen to the Senate Sergeant of Arms speaking to CNN yesterday.
I worry a lot more about cybersecurity than I do about another mob attacking the Capitol. Certainly our networks have attempted intrusions every single day. And so cybersecurity for me is a much greater concern.
Are you more concerned about cyber security attacks versus another insurrection?
I'm concerned about both, Frederica, quite frankly. And with regard to the latter issue, quite frankly, because the Senate did not adopt the bipartisan commission that we voted out of the House, we are essentially inviting another attack on the Capitol. And that's why I think that Speaker Pelosi should do what she intends to do, which is to make sure that we do conduct some type of inquiry in the House to prevent what happened on January 6th from happening again, because doing nothing is not an option.
And Republicans have been reticent to be on board with this January 6th commission. Do you believe, whether it's House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's idea, or do you believe the Biden administration needs to involve itself, even though the president himself, he would not advocate for a commission? But what are the other options?
Well, I think the Speaker outlined them the other day. For one thing, she said that a special select committee could be created. Another option would be for one existing committee in the House to basically lead the investigation. And then the third is to allow existing committees to continue to pursue their avenues of investigation over the areas of their jurisdiction. But again, we can't allow some very important questions to go unanswered with regard to January 6th, because a lot of people feel that the insurrection may not have ended on January 6th. It may have started that day.
Global pandemic ongoing. You've been pushing the White House to donate excess vaccine doses specifically to India. What do you want to see from the administration, and how quickly?
Well, I'm glad that the Biden administration has started the process of donating millions of doses of vaccines, but now we need to ramp up to talking about billions of doses of vaccines getting administered throughout the world. And so I'm initiating legislation called the NOVID Act. It's a play on words, no more COVID, which would establish a program that would help vaccinate 60% of the world's 92 poorest countries, populations, Frederica. This is not only the right thing to do, but it's the smart thing to do in our national interest, because if we do nothing, variants which are multiplying exponentially abroad are going to defeat our first generation vaccines here in the U.S., and that will set us back despite the incredible progress that we've made under the Biden administration with regard to vaccinations and, of course, the economic recovery.
All right, global pandemic, there have to be global solutions. Thank you so much, Congressman
Yes,
Raja Krishnamoorthi.